It was a cold, brisk morning in early fall when Elon Musk decided to take a step that would shock the world. He had been known for his bold ventures, launching rockets into space, redefining the electric car industry, and reshaping the very landscape of technology and business. But on this particular day, his mind was in turmoil. Despite all of his accomplishments, there was a lingering emptiness he couldn't ignore. His journey had always been about innovation, about building something that would leave a mark on humanity, yet something had always been missing. The millions of dollars, the cutting-edge technologies, the millions of fans and followers, none of them could fill the void inside him. And so, on this crisp autumn morning, in a moment of uncharacteristic reflection, he decided to do something completely out of his comfort zone. He walked into a church alone. The church was located in a quiet part of downtown Los Angeles, far from the bright lights of the tech industry where the buzz of social media and the clamor of world-changing ideas often drowned out any sense of peace. The building was simple, almost unassuming, a place where people from all walks of life found solace in the stillness of the sacred. As Elon entered, the scent of aged wood and burning incense filled the air. The church, with its towering stained glass windows and polished pews, was empty save for a few scattered visitors who were lost in quiet prayer. Elon, who had never been particularly religious, found himself drawn to the quiet reverence of the space. He stood near the back, staring at the altar, feeling something unfamiliar stir within him. It wasn't a feeling he had experienced often in the hustle of his high-profile life, peace, a stillness that somehow felt divine. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Can I help you, sir?" It was the voice of Father Thomas, the priest who had been serving the church for decades. The elderly man, with his calm demeanor and warm eyes, had a gentle presence that immediately put Elon at ease. I just needed to think," Elon replied, his voice softer than usual. "I'm not sure what I'm looking for, but I felt like I needed to be here." Father Thomas nodded as if he had heard this before. "Sometimes the quiet places can offer clarity that our busy lives can't. Take a seat if you'd like." "You're welcome here." Elon sat down on one of the pews, his mind racing. He wasn't sure what he expected. Maybe he thought he would find a sense of purpose or a divine revelation, but instead he felt comforted. It was as if the space itself was holding him, reminding him of something larger than his own ambitions. Father Thomas went about his business quietly, moving between pews, setting up the altar for the morning service. For a few moments, the two men were silent, each lost in his own thoughts. Then the sound of footsteps echoed through the church. A woman, mid-30s, walked in, holding the hand of a young girl. The girl, no older than 6, looked up at Elon with curious eyes before glancing at her mother, who smiled kindly. "Father Thomas," the woman said, her voice warm. "Is it a good time for us to pray?" "Of course, Sarah," Father Thomas replied, gesturing toward the pews. "Feel free to settle in." As the woman and child took their seats, Elon found himself observing them. The mother's gentle touch and the child's innocent curiosity reminded him of the simple things in life that he had long since stopped appreciating. He had been so wrapped up in the relentless pursuit of progress that he had forgotten what it meant to just be present. And then something strange happened. As the woman and child began to pray, Elon felt a warmth spread through him, something that couldn't be explained by logic or science. It wasn't the kind of warmth he felt when he succeeded at work or made a groundbreaking discovery. It was something deeper, more profound, as if the very energy of the church had enveloped him. In that moment, Elon had a realization. Maybe he didn't need to solve every problem of the world through technology or innovation. Maybe he needed to start by solving the emptiness inside himself. Elon sat quietly, his hands resting on his lap as he listened to the soft murmurs of prayer around him. For the first time in what seemed like forever, he felt no pressure, no expectations. There were no investors to appease, no boards to present to, no deadlines looming over him. It was just him and the quiet of the church, and in that peace, something began to shift within him. Father Thomas had continued his preparations for the morning service. His movements slow and deliberate, as if every action was a prayer itself. The mother and daughter, meanwhile, had settled into a quiet reverence. The girl, despite her young age, seemed to sense the sanctity of the moment. She was sitting still, her hands folded in her lap, her head bowed in concentration. Elon couldn't help but watch her. The simplicity of the moment, the innocence of the child, the calmness of the mother, struck him deeply. In the whirlwind of his own life, he had lost sight of the small, beautiful moments that made life worth living. His mind raced, But this time, it wasn't in the usual chaotic way. Instead, it was like his thoughts were trying to catch up to the stillness he was experiencing. For the first time, he began to wonder whether all his ambitions, all his wealth, and all his technological advancements had been chasing something that wasn't really fulfilling. Was it possible to find purpose not through building rockets or creating electric cars, but through simply being present, being kind, being connected to the world around him? As the church service began, Father Thomas led the congregation in prayer, his voice steady and comforting. Elon, unsure of what he believed, stood awkwardly and bowed his head. He didn't know if he believed in God, but in that moment, he found himself wanting to believe in something, anything, that could give him the clarity he so desperately sought. Lord, Father Thomas prayed, we ask for peace, for understanding, and for the courage to follow the path you've set before us. As the prayer continued, a strange sense of calm washed over Elon. It wasn't like the calculated decisions he made in his professional life. No, this was something different, something unquantifiable. But it felt real. When the service concluded, Father Thomas turned toward Elon with a soft smile. How are you feeling, my friend? He asked gently. Elon paused, the question catching him off guard. He had expected a flood of emotions, perhaps a profound epiphany, but instead, he simply felt peace, something he hadn't felt in years. He thought about how he had been running at full speed for so long, never stopping to rest, never stopping to reflect. But here, in the quiet of this church, he had found something unexpected, a sense of peace that felt almost like a miracle. I don't know, Elon admitted, his voice quieter than usual. I came in looking for answers, but I think I'm just here, and that's enough for now. Father Thomas nodded knowingly. Sometimes the answers come when we least expect them, and sometimes it's the stillness that teaches us the most. Elon stood up, his body feeling lighter than when he had entered. As he walked toward the door, he glanced back at the altar. The sunlight was streaming through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the stone floor. For a brief moment, he felt a connection to something far greater than himself. It was fleeting, but it was enough to plant a seed of hope. As he stepped outside, the cool breeze hit his face, and he felt as though he had just been awakened. There was still a long road ahead of him, filled with challenges and obstacles. But for the first time in a long while, he felt like he wasn't alone. Whatever was missing inside him had started to heal, and it wasn't technology or wealth that would fix him, it was this moment of stillness. As Elon walked out of the church, the city's usual hustle and bustle began to slowly creep back into his consciousness. The honking horns, the chatter of pedestrians, the endless flow of traffic, it was as if the world had resumed its frenetic pace without him. But despite the noise, there was a subtle sense of quiet inside him, like the calm after a storm. It was a peace that he couldn't quite explain, but he cherished it deeply. He stood outside the church for a few moments, breathing in the fresh air, allowing the warmth of the sun to wash over him. He thought about how little he had given himself time to reflect, to just be. The reality of his life was filled with constant motion, always forward, always looking to the next big challenge, the next big breakthrough. But today, for the first time in a long while, he had stopped. And in that pause, something shifted. It was then that he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around to find an older man standing before him, a weathered face full of wisdom and kindness. The man had the air of someone who had lived many lives, seen many things, and understood the world in ways that only time could teach. Excuse me, sir, the man said in a soft but firm voice, I couldn't help but notice you just came out of the church. Are you all right? Elon was taken aback by the question. He hadn't expected anyone to approach him, much less someone who seemed so ordinary. He was used to people wanting to talk about rockets, Mars, Tesla, and everything else he was known for. But here was this man asking a simple question that, in its simplicity, struck Elon deeply. I'm fine, Elon replied, his voice softer than he anticipated. Just thinking. The man nodded knowingly. That's good. You know, sometimes the answers we're looking for aren't out there, he said, gesturing vaguely toward the busy city streets. They're within us, waiting to be heard. But we have to be still enough to listen. Elon raised an eyebrow, surprised by the stranger's insight. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. The older man smiled, his eyes twinkling with a depth of understanding that made Elon feel like a child trying to grasp an adult's perspective on the world. I'm not saying you'll find all the answers in a church or from me. But sometimes a small moment of quiet can help you see things in a new light. You came here looking for something, didn't you? Elon nodded, feeling a strange sense of vulnerability in admitting it. I don't know. Maybe peace. Maybe purpose. The man's gaze softened. You're not the first to walk that path. And you won't be the last. But remember this, even the busiest people can find moments of grace. Even the most extraordinary minds can find wisdom in the simplest things. Elon felt a surge of gratitude toward the stranger, a sense of connection that he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't often that someone spoke to him so openly without expecting anything in return. He wasn't accustomed to conversations like this, not about personal growth or purpose, but more about the human experience. The conversation felt like a bridge between his world and a world he had long neglected. I think I needed to hear that, Elon said, his voice sincere. Thank you. The older man placed a hand on his shoulder, his touch light but firm. You're welcome, son. Remember, the journey is long, but every step you take in the right direction counts. With that, the man turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving Elon standing there, contemplating the encounter. For a moment, Elon considered calling out to him, asking for more guidance or even just continuing the conversation. But before he could gather his thoughts, the man was gone, swallowed by the sea of people. Elon stood there for a while longer, taking in what had just happened. He had always believed in logic, in data, in the pursuit of tangible outcomes. But this moment, this exchange had left him with something intangible. It was as though the universe had sent a messenger to remind him that life was more than just algorithms and engineering feats. It was also about understanding the human spirit, the heart, and the quiet moments that make life truly meaningful. As Elon made his way back to his car, his mind was a whirlpool of thoughts, but one thing stood out. He had found something in that church, not just peace, but a sense of wonder. A wonder that, despite all his achievements, there were still things greater than himself. And in that realization, he found the seed of a new journey, one that wasn't defined by rockets or electric cars, but by something deeper. Something that had been waiting for him to notice all along. Elon didn't return to his usual routine immediately. As he drove back toward his office, his thoughts continued to linger on the strange encounter with the older man. The man's words were still echoing in his mind, simple yet profound. The idea that even someone as busy and ambitious as Elon Musk could find grace in a moment of stillness felt almost foreign. Yet it resonated deeply within him. For days, Elon continued to carry the weight of that conversation with him. It was as though a quiet revolution was taking place inside his mind. Despite the relentless pressure of his companies, his ventures, and the world's ever-growing expectations, he had discovered a subtle truth that he couldn't ignore. Everything he had been striving for was rooted in the belief that more was always better. More wealth, more fame, more technological advances, more success. But somewhere along the line, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. Elon knew he wasn't alone in this. Many people, especially in high-stakes industries, were driven by the same unrelenting pursuit. The grind to achieve more, to push the boundaries of human possibility, to always reach for something beyond. It was a noble pursuit, yes, but it also had a way of consuming you. And the more he thought about it, the more he realized how easy it had been for him to lose touch with the small, meaningful things in life. Things that didn't require massive achievements or groundbreaking discoveries. It wasn't just the conversations he had with the older man or the moment of peace in the church. There was something deeper stirring within him. A yearning for simplicity. A craving for quiet. And so he made a decision. He would take some time off. A week, perhaps two. No business meetings, no product launches, no boardrooms. He needed space to find the quiet again, to hear his own thoughts without the constant noise of the outside world. But before he could even begin to plan the details of this retreat, something unexpected happened. A call came in from the office, one that would ultimately test his newfound resolve. It was a call from Tesla's chief operations officer, Grace Lee. Elon, she said, her voice calm but urgent, we've encountered a major issue with the new battery production line. It could set us back by months, maybe even a year, if we don't address it immediately. Elon felt a familiar tightening in his chest, the same feeling he had gotten when faced with overwhelming challenges. He was no stranger to obstacles, but this was different. This wasn't just a technical glitch or a market shift. This was a potential crisis that could affect the entire company. He was immediately transported back into the high-pressure world he had left behind when he walked out of the church. He felt the weight of responsibility, the demands of leadership, and the drive to solve problems in real time. But as he sat there listening to Grace outline this situation, something strange happened. The panic, the urgency, the need to respond immediately, all of it felt distant. He was aware of the stakes, but he didn't feel the usual surge of adrenaline that would have propelled him into action. Instead, there was a deep sense of clarity, a calm focus that he had never known before. The problem was real and it needed to be solved. But for the first time, Elon wasn't racing against time. He wasn't going to burn himself out trying to fix it in one fell swoop. He was going to take his time, listen to his team, and come up with a solution that was sustainable, not rushed. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. Grace, we'll address it. But let's not panic. We need to approach this with calm and precision, not haste. I'll be in touch with the team soon. The conversation ended, and Elon sat there, reflecting on the decision he had just made. It wasn't like him to take such a measured approach, but somehow it felt right. He felt like he was walking a fine line between the world he had always known and the world he was starting to discover. A world where peace wasn't a luxury but a necessity. A world where quiet moments weren't a distraction, but a source of clarity. The next few days were a blur of meetings and conference calls, as Elon worked with his team to address the battery issue. But throughout it all, the quiet remained with him. He was still working hard, making decisions, and leading his companies. But he wasn't letting the urgency of the world around him overwhelm him. Instead of jumping into action at the first sign of trouble, he was taking the time to think, to reflect, and to be present in each moment. And then, one afternoon, as he sat in his office reflecting on the progress they were making, something unexpected happened. He received a message. It was from the same older man he had encountered outside the church. It read, "I've been thinking about you, Elon. I sense that you're on the verge of something big. Don't be afraid of the quiet. Sometimes the biggest miracles happen when you stop looking for them." Elon stared at the message for a long time. He hadn't shared any details about his personal life with the man, and yet, somehow, the message felt like a direct continuation of their conversation from days earlier. Felt like a sign, a reminder that he wasn't alone on this journey, even in the quiet moments. He put down his phone and took a deep breath. It was time to embrace the stillness, to embrace the miracle that was unfolding within him. As the days passed, Elon continued to navigate the challenges at Tesla and SpaceX with a newfound perspective. The issues with the battery production line had been resolved not by frantic urgency, but by a team working together with clear heads and steady hands. In the end, it wasn't a miracle in the traditional sense of a sudden, divine intervention. It was a miracle of clarity, of finding solutions in a space of calm rather than chaos. But that wasn't the only change Elon noticed. Something inside him had shifted, something he couldn't quite put into words. The constant drive for achievement, the endless pursuit of the next big thing, it all felt a little less important now. In its place, there was a sense of peace, a feeling of contentment in simply being present. The world hadn't changed, but his perspective of it had. One evening, as Elon sat in his private study at home, the phone buzzed with another message. It was from the same older man who had reached out to him a few days earlier. This time, the message was short but impactful. "There's one more thing I want to tell you, Elon. The greatest miracle isn't the ones you see in the world around you. It's the one that happens inside you. Trust it." Elon stared at the message for a long time, his mind racing. He felt like the universe was speaking to him through these simple messages, through these quiet moments of reflection. But what did it all mean? What was the miracle that the man was referring to? Could it really be something inside of him? The next day, he decided to take a step back and do something he hadn't done in years. He left his office early and drove out to a quiet lake about an hour from his home. The serenity of the place was a stark contrast to the high-tech world he lived in. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of water against the shore and the occasional call of a bird in the distance. It was a simple, peaceful place, one that allowed his thoughts to slow down and settle. As he sat there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, a sense of calm washed over him. The constant questions about the future, about Mars, about technology seemed to fade away. For the first time in a long while, Elon realized that he didn't have to have all the answers. He didn't have to solve every problem. He didn't have to push the world forward at all costs. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air fill his lungs. It was in this quiet moment that Elon understood the true miracle the older man had spoken of. The miracle wasn't in the big achievements or the groundbreaking discoveries. It was in the moments of peace, in the ability to simply be present, to trust in the journey without constantly seeking to control it. Elon stared at the message for a long time, his mind racing. He felt like the universe was speaking to him through these simple messages, through these quiet moments of reflection. But what did it all mean? What was the miracle that the man was referring to? Could it really be something inside of him? The next day, he decided to take a step back and do something he hadn't done in years. He left his office early and drove out to a quiet lake about an hour from his home. The serenity of the place was a stark contrast to the high-tech world he lived in. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of water against the shore and the occasional call of a bird in the distance. It was a simple, peaceful place, one that allowed his thoughts to slow down and settle. As he sat there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, a sense of calm washed over him. The constant questions about the future, about Mars, about technology, seemed to fade away. For the first time in a long while, Elon realized that he didn't have to have all the answers. He didn't have to solve every problem. He didn't have to push the world forward at all costs. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air fill his lungs. It was in this quiet moment that Elon understood the true miracle the older man had spoken of. The miracle wasn't in the big achievements or the groundbreaking discoveries. It was in the moments of peace, in the ability to simply be present, to trust in the journey without constantly seeking to control it. For the first time in years, Elon felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life he had. He thought about his family, his children, his friends. He thought about the people who had supported him throughout his career, the ones who believed in him even when things seemed impossible. He realized that these were the true miracles in his life. The relationships, the connections, and the moments of quiet joy that often went unnoticed in the rush to achieve more. As the sun set and the stars began to emerge in the night sky, Elon sat there in silence, reflecting on everything he had experienced. There was still so much to do, so many challenges to face, but for the first time he felt that he was walking a path that was both fulfilling and meaningful. He didn't need to chase after miracles anymore. He understood that the miracle was within him, in his ability to find peace in a chaotic world, in his capacity to embrace the quiet moments that often held the most profound truths. In that moment, Elon realized that his life had changed. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but rather a gradual shift in how he viewed the world and his place within it. The miracle was not in the explosive achievements, the world-changing innovations, or even the vast fortunes he had built. The miracle was in his ability to be still, to listen to his heart, and to trust that everything would unfold as it was meant to. The next morning, Elon returned to his usual life, but it was different now. He made decisions with greater clarity, led with a sense of calm, and found joy in the small moments that had once felt insignificant. The world outside continued its fast-paced rhythm, but Elon had found a new rhythm within himself, one that was grounded in peace and understanding. And every now and then, as he walked into a room full of people or sat in a board meeting or looked out over the horizon, he would remember the older man's words. The greatest miracles weren't the ones you saw in the world around you. They were the ones that happened within you. And as he moved forward, he would never forget the quiet miracle that had changed his life forever.